Marcus.
Where do you think you're gonna put a
Chainsaw.
that big? Bend over and I'll show you.
For a time, the humans of Serra knew the illusion of peace.
Today's game is Gears of War, the extremely popular Green Team exclusive cover-based shooter that kicked off a very successful franchise from a developer that may have saved the Xbox 360 from mediocrity. We'll get to that. This game is remembered as one of the greats, but how does it actually perform on the Xbox 360's limited hardware? We're going to take a quick look at my physical copy, and we'll get right into the gameplay to find out. Alright, let's get into it.
Jack, rip that door.
Gears of War was Epic Games' first new IP in quite some time, coming off a string of 5 consecutive Unreal games. In fact, this game actually originally spawned as another arena shooter in the Unreal universe. It would feature character classes and mechs, but that was tabled in 2001 for a few years as they grinded out some more Unreal titles. When they picked this game back up, the industry had shifted in a major way towards single-player titles, so they shifted their vision and design for the game in kind. The goal was to create a system that retained the third-person perspective of Resident Evil 4, but hybridized that with the cover-based shooting concept from Killswitch. And oh man, did they unlock the Krabby Patty secret formula with that combination. To accomplish the lofty goals they'd set for this title to be an early, exclusive banger to move Xbox 360 units en masse just a year after its release, with trailers for this, at the time, unnamed shooter being used for marketing, Epic Games' founder Tim Sweeney and the Gears of War development team pushed for and eventually found success in convincing Microsoft to double the 360's total system memory from 256 megabytes to 512. A change that allowed the Xbox 360 to really fit that next-gen look in games and gave the developers headroom to push resolution and quality in games up a considerable notch. It also served to allow for considerable longevity in this console, with games like the 2013 GTA V still releasing on the Green Team's 2005 legendary console. Without this move, I don't know that the 360 would have had the legs to grab the market like it did, and we probably wouldn't be remembering it as fondly for such groundbreaking titles today. And while we're being retrospective, if you like nostalgic content like this, please consider subscribing. We just destroyed our goal of 1,000 subscribers, so thank you all for that, and know that there's a lot more content on the way. Gears of War was a very early Xbox 360 release, and was published and pushed by Microsoft as a hot next-gen exclusive. So developer Epic Games definitely had as good a shot as anyone to produce a good-looking title here. Generally, I say they nailed it. The development team chose a 720p resolution, pretty ambitious for the time, with a performance target of 30 frames per second. And while they didn't exactly hit the performance target 100% of the time, as we'll see later, the game was definitely a stunner for the year it released. There is some minor noticeable aliasing at times, and the texture quality is not always great in the environment, but it also is a decent place to trim on system resources, as many of the compromises are not even noticeable in the fast-paced action combat. Now, whether the early 2000s color palette of muddy grays and browns is to your taste, it's something to consider, but that gritty look definitely makes perfect sense in these environments, and also likely expedited some of the technical steps of production to ensure that the character, weapon, and enemy assets got the love they needed. And they did. The game looks solid where it counts. I really don't want to imagine what this, and many other titles, would look like with just 256 megs of system memory. It would absolutely crush the visuals and performance. The audio is just badass. The game does a fantastic job of selling the fast-paced action through both soundtrack and effects, and the punch and grime of this world just makes you feel like you're an absolute bruiser, brutishly decimating your way through levels. It's very immersive, heavy, and impactful, perfect for a pulse-pounding title like this.
Embry Square. Colonel Hoffman's...
Gameplay is the section I was most looking forward to here, as this is some of the most fun I'd ever had as a teenager playing co-op with my friend late through the night. If you have any fun co-op memories, definitely share in the comments below. It's been fun to see everybody's personal takes on things, and it helps out the video. While the cover-based shooting, nor the third-person shooting ideas were new at all, no one had blended them together or polished them to this degree. Particularly the cover-based shooting gameplay mechanics. It felt like the game Kill Switch, itself a decently successful title, had teed up the ball for another game to come along, polish the core concept, and really make something incredible. And Gears of War stepped up and absolutely crushed it. The cover system in the original Gears of War trilogy is fondly remembered, and going back to it today, it's very easy to see why. Moving in and out of cover takes just a simple press of the A button, but the A button also dynamically lets you vault over obstacles, perform a SWAT turn in doorways, or dodge enemy fire depending on context. The ability to blind fire for some safe shooting, or pop out to exchange a degree of safety for improved accuracy. Again, it's not a new idea, but the game feel here is perfect. Marcus feels heavy, like a big old bruiser, a big old slab of meat. The animations feel appropriately weighty, and everything you do has a real feeling of substance to it. The end result has you feeling like a tactical SWAT team god tearing through monsters, sometimes literally with the chainsaw, with extreme prejudice and precision. I also really like the active reload minigame. It keeps the neurons firing in combat. You get a little dopamine hit when you get a perfect reload, plus a little bonus damage. I also just love how the game encourages you to be a complete savage. For example, there's a mechanic where these holes will open in the ground, and humanoid locust enemies will start spawning from them. You can certainly choose to tactically take them out, bouncing from cover to cover and outflanking them. Or, should intuition strike, you can just charge in and chuck a frag grenade into the hole, blowing them all to hell at once and canceling out the hole itself. It's like the game rewards you for being an absolute animal, like this primal urge, I'm just gonna blow them all up, is met by the game saying, hell yeah, brother, and then you both do the predator handshake. It's pure, unfiltered testosterone. While the story and levels themselves are linear, that works just fine here, and the relatively short, streamlined, 10 or so hour experience keeps you well fed with solid pacing and a cinematic feel throughout. There really are no marks against the game in the gameplay section. It was a joy to play to this day. Also, dude, the chainsaw rips so hard. What an absolutely badass inclusion. Apparently this was one detail from the early 2001 game concept days that they decided had to be in the game, and man am I glad they kept it. Performance is where we hit our first and only real stumbling block, and it's admittedly a very minor one. While the gameplay itself is very often, like 98% of the time, a smooth 30 FPS, while hitting that 720p resolution mark, which is such an accomplishment in 2006 on a new console, there are some very noticeable frame dips in cutscenes at times, like 15 FPS stutters, and it can be a little jarring and break immersion a touch. That said, let's be honest, no one is really playing this for the performance in cutscenes. It's the gameplay that actually truly counts. I thought I'd bring it up as I just want to be as objective about the details I noticed as possible when I'm reviewing these games, but I don't count this against the game much. It's got it where it counts.
On the right! Take him out first!
Gears of War is a must-have title for the Xbox 360, there's just no doubt about it. This game was an absolute banger, and it still looks and performs well to this day. And it's got almost no points against it that I noticed, other than being a bit dated visually, and some stuttering in cutscenes. Didn't bother me, and I'd imagine it won't bother most with proper 7th gen expectations. You'll probably be surprised, in fact. It should also be absolutely dirt cheap as it sold 1 billion copies, so make sure you add this to the collection if you don't already own it. And make sure you subscribe and check out the playlist in the description for more, because there's more videos like this on the way. Thanks!
You'd think we would have figured out some kind of goddamn defense by now.
Yeah. Command's tried everything, but nothing works. If the Locusts want to come...
Looks like we need to split up.